So for chapter 3, we're going to look at motions, okay? Now, all a motion is you're asking the court to do something, right? You're a movant if you're doing that. That's the name of the person who's requesting that the court take some action. So let's look at two of them that come before the actual trial. First one is called a motion to dismiss. Now, in a motion to dismiss, it's just that. You're asking the court to dismiss the claim, okay? To essentially just dismiss the case. Now, why would we do this? Well, for one, maybe there's a lack of standing, right? We've talked about standing. Maybe maybe both parties have reached a settlement already, and there's no need to go to trial, so we're just going to have the case dismissed. Or maybe you don't think maybe you think there's a jurisdiction problem, so you're going to ask the court to dismiss the case because the other party doesn't have jurisdiction. The second one is called a motion for summary judgment. Now, in a motion for summary judgment, you're basically stating that there is no genuine issue of material fact, and you're doing this after discovery. So you've gone through discovery, you've done your interrogatories, you've maybe taken a deposition or two, and you come to the conclusion that the other side essentially doesn't have a case. Now, take this example. Take an example we've talked about assault, right? So in assault that there has to be an apprehension of physical contact, right? So let's say, for example, that I threw something at you, okay? Now, you didn't know it was coming, okay? I threw something at you from behind. And the only reason that you even were aware of it is because a witness told you that, I threw something at your head. So let's say you sue me for assault, okay? You don't know that, but you sue me for assault, okay? So after we go through all the, discovery, it comes out that you were unaware that I had thrown something at you in the first place at the time it was happening. We know right away that you cannot possibly win this case. Now, why can you not win this case? You cannot win it because even if what you're saying is true, right? Even if it's true that I threw something at your head, the fact that you didn't know it was coming means that I cannot be found liable for assault, right? So what we're saying is, even if the other side is right, so I would say, hey, even if you're right, I did throw something at your head, so what? So what? Who cares? Because it doesn't matter. Even if you're right, you still don't have a case. So that's what a motion for summary judgment is. Now, there's two motions we talk about during the trial. The first is a motion for a mistrial. Now, a motion for a mistrial exists when something happens in the trial that basically makes it impossible for you to get a fair trial. So let's say some negative information that wasn't supposed to come out at trial comes out. You can maybe ask for a motion for a mistrial to try to get the case dismissed. Really anything that happens that can prejudice you during a trial, you can try to get the case dismissed, at least, or rather have a motion for a mistrial. Okay, secondly, we have a motion for directed verdict, okay? So a motion for directed verdict is basically the same thing as a motion for summary judgment. You're saying, except instead of being after discovery, it's after the plaintiff presented his case. So the plaintiff presents his case, okay? We go through the trial, they call their witnesses, we do cross-examination, the plaintiff gets their rebuttal. After that part, right, the plaintiff has basically said everything they're going to say, they've tried to prove their case. We're essentially going to say, hey, there is no reasonable jury that can arrive at a verdict against me, right? We've heard everything, so why do we even have to go to the jury? Why even let the jury decide? We go to the judge and we say, hey, judge, you heard everything here, okay? You know that there's no way I could possibly lose this case, so let's just end it right now. So that would be a motion for directed verdict, okay? So we're telling the judge, hey, let's not waste time, let's not go all the way into deliberations with the jury, let's just take care of this now. Now, after the trial, there's two more motions that we need to know. The first is a motion for a new trial, all right? So let's say we lost. So we are essentially asking the judge to overturn the verdict based on some error. Now, keep in mind, this motion for a new trial doesn't mean, oh no, we lost, we deserve a new trial. What this means is that we believe there was some legal problem, right, with the verdict or something that happened at trial that would warrant us getting a new trial, all right? So it's not just, oh no, I lost, that sucks, I want a new trial. That's, hey, I can point to something specific that I feel hurt me in this trial, right? And therefore, because the judge messed up in letting that in, or whatever the case is, I want a new trial. The last one is called motion for judgment NOV, notwithstanding the verdict. And so this is really, really similar to the motion for directed verdict. In fact, you don't have to know this, but you're not even allowed to file a motion for judgment NOV after the trial unless you already filed a motion for a directed verdict during the trial. But it's not really relevant. A motion for judgment NOV is after you essentially lost. The jury essentially ruled against you. Well, you're basically telling the judge, hey judge, you heard the same trial I heard, you were here. There is no way that that jury could have arrived at that conclusion, right? It's almost like a dumb jury motion. It's like, how the hell did they arrive at that conclusion? So that's really all it is. It's really the same thing as this, as the motion for directed verdict, but it comes after the trial, okay? So let's just look at these one more time on a chart. You see that pre-trial, you have your motion to dismiss and your motion for summary judgment. During your trial, you're going to have your mistrial and your directed verdict. And post-trial, you're going to have your motion for new trial and your motion for judgment NOV. Now, if you look at these are really, really similar, okay? Especially these three down here in a row, really similar. Your motion for summary judgment says the other side doesn't have a case, okay? We heard everything in discovery, they don't have a case. Now, we go here, the motion for directed verdict. During the trial, we heard what the other side said, we heard them put on their whole case, and there's no way that I could possibly lose. So we're asking the judge to toss it here. We go here, we just lost the case. But, very similar to this, motion for judgment NOV, there's no way we should have lost the case, all right? So these three are really, really similar, okay? They don't have a case against me, there's no way I could lose, there's no way I should have lost, all right? That's why it's kind of important to look at these in grid form. Now, just a little trick. Just try to remember the idea of the rows and columns here. If you remember nothing else, remember that these are pre-trial, these are during the trial, and these are post-trial. Now, why is that important? It's important because if on your exam you get a question that says, the plaintiff, just finished presenting their case and yada, 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 which motion, would be most appropriate, well, you automatically know that because it's during the trial, it's going to be one of these two, right? So even if you know nothing about these motions, if you can just remember where they come in the process, that these come before, these come during, and these come after, if you just remember that, you'll be able to essentially limit yourself to a 50-50 guess in the exam.